It's April the 18th, picks edition of the MLB Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Play their fantasy pick'em for a chance to win 100x in NBA, MLB, MMA, NHL, golf, and more. Sign up today using our promo code MLB SGPN to get a 100% deposit match. Plus, the NFL draft is coming up, and old-fashioned football is giving away some autographed NFL merch. Head to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/OFF contest to enter today. Welcome, everybody, to the MLB Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. My name is Malcolm Bamford, coming to you from Newcastle upon Tyne in the northeast of England. Today is Wednesday, April the 17th, and we are here to have a look around a teeny tiny little card of action for Thursday afternoon. Munaf must be sleeping on the job because 2 weeks running, myself and Dylan have got the short fun card to do. Munaf normally keeps that for himself, but we're back again. First up, Mr. Dylan Rockford. D-Rock, how are you?
I'm doing well, much better than last week when the Mets were struggling. We're the hottest team in baseball right now, so it feels good. It's nice to be on the other side of things.
Well, don't worry. I've got a couple of Mets questions lined up for you because I know 9 times out of 10 when we mention them, it's purely to just agitate you. But not tonight. We'll say some nice things, Dylan. So I have got some little friendly questions for you. But we've got a guest tonight from OddsShark, one of my favourite sites. We'll discuss that in a little while. Joining us is Mr. Mitch Bannon. Mitch, hey man, how are you?
Doing pretty well. Thanks for having me on, guys. I'm stoked about the shorter slate. It means I can kind of dive in deeper to the games. Makes it a little easier. Makes me feel like more confident in my picks, which isn't necessarily always a good thing.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, sometimes feeling confident makes me worry a little bit. I feel like, what have I missed? There must be something wrong here if I'm confident. But I know what you mean. The little 5-game slate means you can get down the batting lineups. You can get down at the 7, 8, and 9 hitters. And I think we did well. In fact, Dylan, I think we did well. I swept last week. I haven't mentioned that. The last Thursday, I went 6 out of 6, which almost certainly means if I was listening to this show, I would ignore me and write down anything that Dylan and Mitch say for the next 40 minutes. Because I'm due an 0-5 tomorrow. Mitch, a couple of things I need to know. I need to know about OddsShark. I've looked this afternoon like I always do. Just because everything you want is on there. Doesn't matter whether it's you want to find something to read, a little bit of a long form, or you just need to find some odds or some information. It's all there to hand. So what do you do over there? That's one question. Have you got a baseball team? Just so we know whether to review or not about them. And what do you do at OddsShark, Mitch?
Yeah, for sure. So, OddsShark on basically every sport you could want. It's kind of like a one-stop shop. As you mentioned, we have like a content team, 5 or 6 of us, putting out videos, putting out written stuff. But then the tools, I think, are kind of the strength of the website. Like you can go in and look at game logs, a database where you can kind of filter and sort through everything you want from every sport. I use it to handicap these games, so it's not like I'm just hyping up the OddsShark tools. It's a fun one. You may have to remind me of the other 2 questions. I'm bad at keeping 3 things in my mind at once.
What do you do at OddsShark, and who is your baseball team with the other 2?
Yeah, there we go. Okay, I'll start with the baseball team. So I'm in Toronto right now, based in Toronto. I kind of work the Blue Jays a decent amount as well, so it's hard for me to say they're necessarily my team. I definitely grew up as a Jays fan, but going to the games as less of like a fan and more of a media member makes it a little harder. But if you want to shirt me on the Blue Jays, I know the most about them, so we can go back and forth on them. And then at OddsShark, I do mostly baseball. I'm definitely a baseball guy, and then I do some football in the baseball off season. So I'm kind of pumped for the draft next week too. I'm a Baltimore Ravens fan on that side, so we're not going to be picking for a long time in that one. But I do like the top of this year's draft. So mostly baseball, football. Maybe you'll see me doing a little everything else, but those are my main 2 at OddsShark.
The Blue Jays have gone okay this week so far against the Yankees. Traditionally struggled a little bit in that situation. So the Blue Jays and the Mets are going okay. In the chat, if you are hanging around, put your head around the door and say hello, TVDBJ. was first in. It is Paul Blackburn Day. We like Paul Blackburn Day on the show. He's bemoaning the fact that Oakland haven't given him much help today. Rubric Ocean is in, and Callum Schultz is lost. Callum Schultz listens to the Premier League Gambling Podcast and has found his way, somehow dazed and confused, into the MLB show tonight. I've got the football on right now. Manchester City and Real Madrid in the Champions League. Either of you two boys watching that?
No, but you did tell me about Borussia Dortmund being frauds, and they winded up winning. So I took your advice, and I lost. So not going to be listening to you right now.
We're only as good as I've swept tonight. I went 0 for 2 last night. I've righted the ship. I've gone 2 for 2 tonight. But I've got a small boy sitting down here who stayed up to watch the Champions League. It's now officially past his bedtime, but it's gone to extra time. So what do? You can't send him to bed when it's extra time and he's leaving. So he gets
to finish it out. He gets to watch
under strict instructions to be very quiet. Right, Dylan. I'm going to pander to you now with your little Mets questions. 4 come from behind wins in a row. Today didn't really count. It's not like they came from miles behind and narrowly won. They came from 1 down and won 9-1. So 4 come from behind wins, but 4 straight series as well. And like I say, when we talked to you at the beginning of last week, you didn't see this coming, mate, did you?
No, I did not. I mean, especially the teams that we versed, the Pirates, Cincinnati Reds, the team that we just beat, and the Pittsburgh Pirates. They were all good teams coming into the series with the Mets, but Harrison Bader's been a really nice addition. Taylor as well, Nimmo. Francisco Lindor is still struggling a little bit, but Francisco Alvarez, we're aggressive on the base pass. Our bullpen, best ERA in the National League. I think it really stems from the pitching, and I've really liked what I've seen. 10 of the last 13. And like you said, that's usually the game, not the game plan, but that's usually the script so far these last few games. The Mets go down 1 or 2-0, and then 6th, 7th inning, here they come, and the bats keep rolling. So, tough start to start the season, but it's come along really nice. 10 of the last 13, and we're finally above 500.
Yeah, my only little issue is that, and Scott pointed this out last week, was how short the Mets starters are going. It has been a little bit of a system play to take the unders on the outs, but the knock on of that is the bullpen are having to get 12 outs every day, which is fine now, but ask them again in the middle of August when all their arms are hanging off. But the alternatives are not being as competitive and not giving yourself this little run you've had. So I've got no problem with it. They did. What's the lad's name today, Dylan? You might be able to remember. Who the Mets signed to a contract. He broke camp with the team. They then DFA'd him in the first week, and he went to the Twins. And today they have picked him up off waivers from the Twins. So he's backwards and forwards. I can't remember a relief pitcher for the Mets today. Randy has joined us in the chat. Randy, how you doing? Randy's 7-0. What, Randy? They're up for my picks from last night. And old-fashioned football, who we were just talking about. We just mentioned them earlier on. Loads of really cool merch I was looking at on Twitter yesterday from the old-fashioned football show here on the network. Right, okay. We've got 5 games tomorrow. I've got lines for, I think, all of them. And like we did last week, we can the fact that there are only 5 games mean we can give out some hitters that we like. And obviously we've got 2 guests as well tonight. So plenty of different opinions. We'll get to tomorrow's games. Once I've told you first about, I'll just confirm that old-fashioned football contest. It is loads of NFL merch with the draft coming up. I think Noah is going to be at the draft for the network. I think it's in Detroit maybe next week. But old-fashioned football are giving away some autographed NFL merch. Head to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/OFF contest to enter today. And also Underdog Fantasy, the easiest place to play fantasy sports. The NBA playoffs here in Underdog Fantasy are making it an awful lot more interesting. Play the picking game. It's as simple as selecting higher or lower on player stats like points, rebounds, assists, and loads more. Make entries of all basketball or mix and match across your other favourite sports. Win up to 100x your money. Loads of fun. Underdog available in 30 plus states, including California, Texas, and Canada. So there's a pick'em special for the Friday playing games on the 19th, so in 2 days' time there. So this special will go live in the lobby for eligible new customers that sign up by the morning of the 18th. So that's just for SGPN listeners. So sign up with the code MLB SGPN. Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's Underdog Fantasy promo code MLB SGPN. First game on the card tomorrow is a 1:10 Eastern first pitch between the LA Angels and the Tampa Bay Rays. The pitchers are Griffin Canning will go for the Angels, and it is Ryan Pepiot. We still haven't decided. I'm going with Pepiot, Continental over here. Pepiot will go for the Tampa Bay Rays, plus 125 for the Angels, minus 150 for the Rays. Total is set at 8.5. Mitch, be our guest, lead us off with a lovely winner.
I like the over in this one. I think it should be like a 9.5 line. Neither of these guys have been particularly good this season. Canning's allowed 2 runs in his last 2 starts. Pepiot's got like a high 4, low 5 ERA on the season. He's allowed a home run in every single one of his starts, I believe. You go into like the expected ERAs too, and I think they're higher for both of these guys. Canning's is like a 7 expected ERA. Pepiot's is like 5.5. The big thing for me here too is the Rays have the worst bullpen in baseball. So if we don't get the runs in the first couple innings of this game, the bullpen we've kind of grown to love from the Rays, it's been kind of locked down for the last decade almost, could blow it in the end. And these teams played a 13-inning game yesterday. They're going to play a night game today, then a day game after the night game tomorrow. I think the Pens are going to be tired. They're going to be used. I like this over a lot.
I love that, Mitch. My play was the over, but what I love most about your handicap is that bullpen angle. It just adds a little bit of confidence behind my pick. I mean, Griffin Canning, it's been a right old mess, really. They've all been very similar. 9, 8, and 8 hits and walks, all between 4 and 5 innings. And that'll get you beat. The way he's performing will get you beat. They've lost all 3 of those games quite comfortably. Pepiot, a bit of a mixed bag. Good start, bad start, good start. So he's due one. But my worry for Pepiot tomorrow is that his 2 bad starts have come at home. They've come at the top. Tampa Bay, I didn't want to take a side. I found it too hard to take a side. Tampa Bay 6-6 at home, so not going great. The Angels are just regressing a little bit after that decent start that they had. So I didn't want to come down on a side. Certainly not minus 150. But I like the over. The over was a great play. And like I say, Mitch backing us up with those bullpen numbers makes me feel even better about it. So yeah, I'll side with Mitch on the over 8.5. If there's any players I was going to pick out, there's nothing much for the Angels. The obvious one, Trout. But Logan O'Hoppe is a catcher for some player props. So if you wanted to play him in DFS, he grades out quite well tomorrow. And for the Rays, one standout player on the numbers is Yandy Diaz leading off there tomorrow. So they'd be my 2 DFS or hitting prop options. Dylan, have you got a team ride on the over?
Yeah, I do like the over. I was able to get the Rays earlier in the day, minus 142. Now they're getting a little past my range. I made them a minus 165 favorite, but I do like the over. I made my total 8.9, so I agree where it should be around a 9 with Mitch. You know, I can't back Griffin Canning. He's honestly the worst out of the 2 pitchers. He's not looked good in any of his first 3 starts. 5 or more hits in all 3 starts, 4+ runs in each of his starts. So I think on the road, they've kind of regressed, like you said. The Rays have the worst bullpen. Angels have a top 5 worst bullpen in the AL. 2 bad bullpens. They're going to be exhausted, like Mitch said. I think on the road, this Rays team's kind of figuring it out offensively as well. Angels regressing. I do think the Rays are the right side, but I do like, now that it's getting a little past minus 150, I agree. I think the over is the play here for this one.
Okay, thank you, Dylan. Next game is another 1:10 Eastern first pitch. This is the game that the eyes of baseball, I think, will be on tomorrow. This is really the biggest story on a small 5-game card. The game is Texas Rangers at the Detroit Tigers. And the reason the eyes of the game will be on this is the debut of Jack Leiter, Al's boy, for the Texas Rangers. And Kenta Maeda will go for Detroit. You can take Leiter at even money. Maeda in the Tigers are minus 120. Total is at 8.5. Dylan, what are you expecting from Leiter? Do you know much about him?
Yeah, debut of Jack Leiter, son of a great Al Leiter over here in the Mets. Very interested to see him pitch. I saw him pitch one time in AAA. He'll probably be on a pitch count tomorrow, but down in AAA, he went 1-1, 3.73 ERA in 2 starts. He did have 1 relief appearance as well. He's pitched 14 and 1/3 innings this season, 25 strikeouts, 3 walks. He struck out 10 over 6 innings against Oklahoma City in his last start last Friday, allowed 3 runs on 6 hits. So by all accounts, he's looked pretty good, and I think this could be a good start or a good spot for him against the Detroit Tigers tomorrow on the road. I trust the bats much more of the Texas Rangers here than the Tigers, who are bottom 5 in batting average, slugging, total runs, hits, home runs, basically everything. So Rangers are the better team. They will figure it out, and if this turns into a sprint with a bunch of runs, I do trust the Rangers to win that game. So small dog at even money. I'm going to take the Rangers here.
Mitch, how are you with your pitching prospects and Jack Leiter?
Yeah, gun to my head, I would take the Tigers here, but I don't really love either of the sides just because of the rookie unknowns. And as Dylan mentioned, the Tigers really haven't hit this year, so I could kind of see the outcome going either way. One thing I really like for this game is betting on a couple Tigers to hit home runs. Leiter has been good in the minors, especially recently, but he has given up bombs. That's the one thing. The second he got into minor league baseball, he's given up home runs. I think it's 190 minor league innings, 31 home runs throughout the last couple of years. If you translate that to the big leagues, he'd be one of the biggest home run pitchers in baseball. So I think he's going to get a welcome to the big leagues. Maybe he's good, but I could see a guy like Kerry Carpenter going yard. He's the one guy on the Tigers hitting right now. He's a lefty bat against the righty arm. I'm a big Spencer Torkelson guy. He's been kind of brutal to start the year, but I picked up a lot of stock of him in some futures, over on his home runs and a lot of fantasy baseball. He hasn't really gotten going, but he was really good, especially against righties last year for hitting power. And in the second half, if he can lock that in, I think this could be a game where he could go yard too.
I've got a Detroit hitter written down. I was hoping you were going to match with one of mine, but Riley Green was the one that stood out from my list. Yeah, it's interesting. This obviously, Leiter's got a bit more experience than a lot of the youngsters like Jared Jones and players like that. We've come up pitched so well yesterday against the Mets. Leiter hasn't had it easy. He's sort of bounced around and he's had a few woes in the past. So he's worked hard to get here. He was really dodgy last year, but so far this year, all right, tiny sample, down at Round Rock, but he's done really well. The key figure for me, because he can be a little bit erratic, is the 25-3 strikeout to walk rate. That's a really positive thing. That's the trend that gives you hope that Leiter can go well here. So I don't know what Leiter's K numbers would be. So that's an option if you do want to take him. But of the two, I prefer Detroit here because I think the prices are a little bit squeezed just by that name being there. I don't think they should genuinely be behind Leiter an even money shot. Maeda numbers aren't great, but it's trending in the right direction. He was really good last time against the Twins. 6 innings, 5 hits, 1 earned run. His last 2 starts have been at home like this one, so he can settle down a little bit here. So yeah, I'm going to take Detroit. I'm going to take them on the first 5. I hope Leiter goes okay. I don't want to see him blow up. But if he can just give up 2 or 3 runs, we can get Detroit here in the first 5. Texas bats, there was nothing apart from the obvious ones. Well, actually, that's not true. Garcia stood out on my... But Langford stood out on my numbers, and obviously Langford has been struggling. I watched a little bit of him today, so I'm not entirely sure why the numbers like him so much. But Garcia and Langford, and the only one for Detroit I had written down was Riley Green. Next game is a 1:35 Eastern first pitch between the Cleveland Guardians and the Boston Red Sox. We have Carlos Carrasco going for Cleveland, and it is Cooper Criswell on the hill for the Red Sox. -102 for the Guardians, -116 for the Red Sox, with a total here of 9. Straight back to you, Mitch. We've got another young arm here in Criswell. So what do you know about him?
I know he has not been very good in the beginning of his career. I'll tell you that. I think he's got a 6 ERA in his first few cracks at the big leagues. He's let up a lot of home runs. I think it's like 7 home runs in 40 innings. So another guy maybe you can take some homer props against. Cooper Criswell, not a guy I'm going to be betting on until he really shoves it down my throat and shows he can pitch at the big leagues. And on the other side, the opposite of a young guy, Carlos Carrasco, seems like he's kind of found something this year. He's got like a 3.5 ERA. His expected ERA is down there too. All of like the movement numbers and stuff are ticking back up. He looks particularly healthy. I kind of like a bet on the Guardians. I think they're pretty good against right-handed pitching too, so they could give Criswell a bit of a challenge. Maybe a first 5 line just to hone in on this starting pitching matchup, but either the money line or first 5, I like the Guardians value here.
Yeah, I've got the same pick here. I've got Cleveland. Boston are becoming a little bit expensive to follow. They seem to be finding several different ways to lose a game. They can lose close ones. They can lose it early. They can lose it late. They've got all different ways of doing it. I think Dylan, I don't know what, I'll be interested to see what Dylan says about Carlos Carrasco. Obviously, he had a first-hand of experience of him last year on the Mets. But I mean, Cleveland going okay for a start. They've 3-game winning streak for the 3rd time already this season, so they are able to put little streaks together. And Carrasco's been solid, although short, 12 2/3 in 3 starts. So you're not getting much out of him, but what he does, though, is okay. Cresswell has only started 1 game. They did get the win. But I just want to watch him. It's a watching brief, really. I'm not necessarily fading him, but I wouldn't be rushing to the window either. Boston a little bit banged up. I'll have to see the lineup. Obviously, they're already missing Story. Devers left the game. Maybe a little hammy. He was feeling something last night. I don't know. I haven't seen the lineups for tonight. So Boston just a little bit banged up as well. 3-7 in the last 10. They're 2-6 at home. So those things are enough to edge me towards Cleveland here. In terms of bats, Josh Naylor out for Cleveland and Tristan Casas for Boston with the 2 I had. Dylan Carrasco, you feeling him?
Yeah, he's actually been better than he was with the Mets. The only problem was exactly what you said. He hasn't been giving the Guardians all that much of length. Like I'd like to see him go 6-7 innings if he can, but it's like Mitch said, his expected ERA is down there. He's not getting the wins, but he is pitching well. I'm not going to go to a side here, even though I agree with you guys. I do think the value is with the Boston Red Sox. With the Guardians, excuse me. I only made the Red Sox a -110 favorite. But I like the total here. Give me the over 9. A little chalky, -122. I made my total 9.8. Not so much a fade of these pitchers, more, I guess, a bet on both of these lineup. Both teams have gone over this number in 3 of the last 5 games. Guardians, they've been the surprise team of the MLB so far, especially offensively. 24 runs in the past 3 games. Red Sox, they've been scoring as well. Should be a windy day. Winds blowing out into center field tomorrow at Fenway. So I'm going to bank on both of these lineups to get some runs. Guardians have been the surprise team, and I think Trev makes a good point in the chat. Boston's bullpen's kind of been taxed lately. So I think once they get Criswell out of the game, I think they're going to really be able to get to that bullpen. So I'm going to go over 9 here. See a high-scoring game.
Yeah, Ryan, our resident, I want to say Boston. He's a bit like you with the Mets. He's tends to be on the negative side. Ryan saying they've got no defense at the moment, but Devers should be okay, we believe. And I forgot to mention here, I had noted down that Garrett Whitlock left last night, which is a bit of a blow for Boston because it's fine margins at the minute with Boston. They don't have much room for error, and that is going to hold them back a little bit. So that was 3 baseball games for tomorrow. We've got 2 games later on, the first of which is a 7:40 Eastern first pitch between the Miami Marlins and the Chicago Cubs. Scott's favourite left-handed pitcher AJ Puk goes for Miami, and Jameson Taillon on debut will go for the Cubbies. Lines are, I haven't seen any. Yes, I have. +128 for Miami, -152 for Chicago, with a total of 8. That -152 is a bit skinny for me. I obviously handicapped these games this afternoon without any lines and came down on the side of Chicago. At the time, I hadn't seen a Miami pitcher, so yeah, I don't really know what to do with that. Miami haven't got much to go at the minute. Arias has started hitting again after looking a bit ropey early in the season. He's got a 6-game hit streak going. But AJ Puk's just been all over the place. I always find myself trying to defend him, and I think I've ended up handicapping him the last few times with Scott. And maybe it was his last game where he did give up a lot of stuff early on, but then settled again. So I still think there's a good start in him somewhere, but I can't keep backing him. I might have to just wait till I've seen it and then go in again. Tyone, interesting for tomorrow, obviously on debut, delayed start of the season because of injury. And I do expect him to go well. I was quite high on him at the start of the season. His ERA last year was 4.84. But he had a much better second half to the season. He had a 2.67 July ERA. He had a 2.76 September ERA. So I'm expecting him to come out and back that up. The Cubs are 5-1 at home. So most things just point to Chicago. I mean, it's not a working man's price, minus 152. You could use as a parlay if you want to go alt line. But yeah, that's the side I come down on without being too clever about it. Players wise, Sanchez, I think, is the best of a bad bunch for Miami. And the obvious ones again for the Cubs. Well, Bush and Happ stood out. But further down the list, Mike Talkman, I think, would be a cheap alternative, either a nice price on the books or a cheaper DFS play. So that's me for this one. Mitch, what do you think of this?
Yeah, I love Talkman in this one too. He was a guy I kind of saw there, just like I think Puck might have a bad day in general, just because the Cubs are the best team in the league against lefties. They have like an 890 OPS against lefties so far this season. Despite looking at their lineup, it doesn't seem like a lineup that would necessarily crush lefties, but they've done it so far. But even after saying that, I wasn't in love with either of the sides, especially at minus 150, minus 155. If I'm going to bet the Cubs, it's probably on the run line, minus 1.5. But I think I was kind of in between the over too, because last year I was a big Faye Jamison Tyone guy, and then he did turn it on in the second half and kind of burned me. I looked at his kind of game logs in the minors on the rehab starts, gave up some runs, but he was striking out a lot of people, not walking many. So it's not a guy I can really fade coming off his minor league rehab start. So I think I might stick to maybe a Mike Talkman play, maybe the under on AJ Puck strikeouts, or just maybe take the Cubs team total in this one. I don't know what it's set at, but I don't really love kind of the surface level lines here.
Okay. Dylan, Miami at Chicago.
Yeah, well, I thought two other pitchers were going, but I think 150 is kind of steep for the Cubs, but to get some value here, I agree. Maybe taking them on the run line plus 134 right now. I think that's a very nice place against one of the worst teams in the league. The Fish, they lost again today. They lost 3 of the last 4, 2-4 on the road. They're just a bad team, and Mitch took my handicap, 278 versus lefties. They don't have one guy or two guys, but 1 through 9, I feel like, are all tough outs for this lineup. So they're going to make AJ Puck work. I love his under outs. I just think it's a bad spot for him on the road where they haven't been good. Cubs are really good at home. This is all lining up for a nice Cubs win. I do worry about Taillon in his first start with the Cubs, but I think this is a good spot for him to kind of ease him into the season against one of the worst teams. So to get some value, I'll take the Cubs minus 1.5 plus 134.
Okay, Cubbies on the run line for D-Rock. That was the penultimate game. Last up, we have a 9:45 Eastern first pitch between the Arizona Diamondbacks and the San Francisco Giants. It is Ryan Nelson for the D-backs, who will take on Logan Webb of the Giants, minus 188 favourites, San Francisco, plus 145 Arizona. Total is the lowest on the card today. The 7.5 is the total. D-Rock, finish us off with a winner, please.
Yeah, I'm going right back to the totals. Give me the over 7.5. I do see 8s out there already. So money is coming in on the over. I still lean over. I made my total 8.3. I do think we're going to see some runs here, especially on the Giants side. They've been an over team this year, 11-7 toward the over on the year. If whenever their team total opens up, maybe I look towards that. If you get a 4.5, I would lean over as that. I'm just not the biggest Ryan Nelson fan. He's given up 3+ runs in 2 of his 3 starts. And Giants have been doing a good job getting on base, scoring runs of lately. And surprisingly, Logan Webb in his 4 starts this season, they've all been involved in high-scoring games, 11-2, 6-4, 5-4. 3 of his 4 starts have gone over this number. He's given up 5+ hits in each of those starts as well. So I think both pitchers can contribute to this game going over. It's going to be a windy night in San Francisco, 9-mile-an-hour winds blowing out into center field. So that should help us, but low total, but I'm going to go over a little chalky, -122, but give me the over.
Yeah, I think whenever you see Arizona next to a total of 7.5, your instinct is just to go over because they've scored a boatload of runs so far this season. They've scored, I wrote this down, we're 27 more runs than the Giants and have conceded 8 fewer. They've walked it off last night, 12 runs. Not as prolific tonight, but yeah, generally speaking, Arizona are going over. Ryan Nelson was great last time v St. Louis. This is only a second road start, so it's worth remembering that. But it's an easier assignment than his last one, which was the Atlanta Braves. 2 back-to-back excellent starts for Webb, 7 innings pitched, which not many pitchers are doing so early into the season against the Padres and the Rays, only giving up 3 total. Doesn't strike many outs if you wanted an under K prop on Webb, maximum 5. So I don't know what the books would do with that. But just going back to the run totals, Arizona are capable of scoring more runs than the Giants. I just find a little bit anemic offense. And there's a dog price on a short card. This was my favourite dog play today. Arizona at +145. In terms of the bats, Christian Walker and Randall Grichuk were 2 I like for Arizona. And Jorge Soler for the Giants stood out. But yeah, I'll take the D-backs as a dog, +145. Mitch, you need to close us out with a winner here.
That's not a great sign for you if I'm winning, because I'm on the other side of this one. This is another one. I think I'm going to go Giants run line. I hate to be on the other side. I think they could win this one by 3 or 4. I'm a big Logan Webb guy as well. As you mentioned, he's been dynamite his last 2 starts. And I kind of looked into the individual matchups against this Arizona team because he faces them a lot. And he's had some pretty good success. He's held current Diamondbacks to a 720 OPS. The big boys in the lineup, especially Gurriel, Ketel Marte, Jock Peterson, all haven't had super success against Webb. Christian Walker is one guy who has, so I would kind of stay away from fading him, that's for sure. Then on the other side, yeah, Ryan Nelson's not a guy I'm going to be betting on either. He's current Giants. You mentioned he's kind of been hit or miss this year. He had a good last start. He's got a 5.3 ERA on the season, and he has not been good against the current Giants lineup. They have a 960 collective OPS against him, so that's like a lineup of an MVP player. Guys like Michael Conforto and Lamont Wade Jr., the lefties, have had a lot of success. Matt Chapman's been pretty good against him. It's not been good this season, but maybe he turns it around. I don't love the line for the Giants, so this is another one I'm looking at the run line.
Okay, so opposite sides of that one, fair enough. And that, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, is it. 5 games in the book. Great timing because City and Madrid have just gone to penalties, so I can sit back and watch that. However, we're going to make our lock and dog picks. Mitch, no pressure, you're the guest. Lead us off. Give us a lock and a little underdog that you fancy. Anything you like.
Yeah, well, if I'm looking at a prop for my lock, I do like Kerry Carpenter to homer against Jack Leiter. If that's anywhere above +350, +400, I'm taking that. But in terms of a game lock, I like the Angels Rays over at 8.5. You can get that around -105, -110 when it first opened. As I mentioned, neither of these starting pitchers are particularly good. The bullpens are also really bad, and I also think both bullpens are going to be really taxed coming into this game. So I see this one being a really high-scoring game.
Okay, D-Rock, what do you have?
Yeah, so for my lock, I am going to go with, I do like that total, but I'm not going to double dip. Why don't I do the total I just talked about, 7.5, short over to the Giants and the D-backs. I like everything I just said. Ryan Nelson's given up 3+ runs in 2 of his last 3 starts. Logan Webb's been phenomenal, but he has been in some high-scoring games. I do think this Giants team could beat the brakes off of this Diamondback team. So I'll take the over there for my lock. And as my dog, wanted to go with the debut of Jack Leiter, but it's short. It's at even money. I'll take the Cubs and back Tyon here on the run line, +134. Fish, just a bad team. 278 against lefties. I think this game could get out of hand. So give me the Cubbies on the run line, +134 as my dog.
Okie doke. I'm going to take the Guardians as my look to beat the Red Sox. The Red Sox are just making my teeth itch a little bit at the moment. I can't seem to get away with them. I'd much prefer Carrasco over Criswell. So I'll take Cleveland there. And the amount of negativity in that Ryan and some of the other people in the chat are piling on the Red Sox as well. So I will take that all on board. And for my dog, we go back to the last game. I didn't have many dogs. Loads of player props, but as a line, I think the D-backs have to be live against the Giants. There's not many situations where they're not going to be. And I understand that Webb's a better pitcher, but if they can keep it close, they could win this late on maybe. So I will take Arizona at plus 145 for my underdog. And that is that. Mitch, is there anything else you want to tell the people about before we let them go? Where can we find you on Twitter, etc.?
Sure, yeah. Thanks for having me on, guys. This was fun. I'm on Twitter at Mitch Bannon, spelled how it kind of sounds, 2 N's in Bannon. But yeah, check out my writing at OddsShark. I write for some other places too. I put that all out on Twitter. So if I gave you winners and you want to thank me, you can give me a follow after. If not, don't DM me.
That's the key. D-Rock, any more crack before we go?
No, just another tough loss for the Dodgers. Love them kind of shaking up coming into the series against the Mets. Maybe we're catching them at the right time. They lost 2 or 3 from the Nationals. Can you believe it, Mal?
I can't believe it. I tell you what, we drafted Kyle Finnegan in TGFBI as my closer. Way down the board, like pick 400 and something. And that's his 7th save he's locked up tonight. The man's been an absolute machine. So that's a right touch. Okay, Mitch, that was brilliant. I really appreciate it. That was lots of fun. You are welcome back anytime you like. Thank you, D-Rock, as always. Everyone who joined us in the chat, TVDBJ, Randy Ryan, Catfish Dilly joined us late. Haven't seen him for a little while. Who else was in there? What might it be about it? Anyway, if I've missed you, thanks for that. Rubric Ocean was in earlier on. And Callum and the old-fashioned football guys. Good luck tomorrow with your bets. First penalty taker's just stepping up, which is a perfect time for me to say thank you very much to everyone. Good luck, and we will see you down the road. Cheers.